Step forward. Step forward.
Hi, here I am. I'm at the Ripon Poetry Festival, and I'm here with a very brilliant, excellent poet. Me I go make him introduce himself. Please, who am I talking to? Name and where you come from. Where you from?
Hello, I'm Joe Williams, and I'm a poet from Leeds.
And how long have you been doing what you're doing?
I always say that I came to poetry by mistake, which happened in 2015, when I ended up at an open mic event doing some haiku, and I kind of fell into the poetry scene and was very happy to kind of meet all of the people around that, a friendly and encouraging bunch who sucked me into it, and then 9 years later, here I am at Ripon Poetry Festival after all that time.
Mm-hmm. So you came to poetry rather late, which is no big deal. What would you say is your first poem, and can you remember the first poem you wrote?
Oh, that's okay. So I started by writing haiku, which I just kind of posted on my Facebook page once a day, and I think the very first one. Let's try and remember this. This is 575 haiku, not the kind of traditional Japanese haiku. This could be the start of a beautiful friendship or the death of me. I think that was it. And now I'm still here, so it was obviously the second one.
Okay.
The first of the two, the second line.
Okay. Joe, what is poetry?
Poetry is anything that you want it to be. People ask me what is poetry. I always say it's not about what is poetry, it's about what can poetry be.
Explain. Break it down for us.
When people are asking me about writing, my first piece of advice, rule number one, is always write whatever you want. That's always the best starting point. Because if you go to an event like this or any of the regular poetry events that are around, of which there are loads, you just find such a variety of poetry that you'll realise that there's no way of just defining it. Simply, you could write essays and essays about what it could be, anything you want it to be.
Yeah. So in that same vein, then, how would you describe a poet? Is there
Poet?
Yeah, a poet. Because poetry can be anything.
Yeah.
So anyone can be a poet?
I guess, yeah. If anyone who thinks they are writing poetry is therefore a poet. If that's what it's about, self-definition. I think if that's what you want to call yourself, then that's what you are. People are. There might be people who other people think are a poet, but who deny this themselves as well. So it's all, there's no real rules for any of this as far as I'm concerned.
So how would you describe your poetry that you write then? How would you label it?
I mean, I follow my own rule and write whatever I want, so my stuff tends to be quite varied. I think sometimes people aren't quite sure what to expect from me because some of my stuff is deliberately humorous, some of it is quite poignant, some of it's narrative and fictional, some of it's based on real things. Perhaps I write less about real events and personal experiences than some poets might, but I always try and have some truth in there. It doesn't necessarily have to be the absolute facts of things.
Okay, so tell us about what you've written. Have you got books out there, movies, films, plays?
So I've got 4 published books, and then true to what I was just saying, they're all very different. My first book, Killing the Piano, came out in 2017, and that's just a pamphlet of sort of my best of poems at the time. My second one was An Otley Run, which is a verse novella about the pub crawl in Leeds. The third one was This Is Virus, which was an experimental thing using erasure poetry techniques, which people may be familiar with. That came out with the pandemic. Do you remember Boris Johnson's letter to the UK with all the rules we were supposed to follow? It was all made out of that. And then the last one, most recent one, is The Taking Part, which is a pamphlet, a themed pamphlet on the theme of sport and games.
Where do we find your stuff, by the way? Have you got social media?
Yeah, so I would say,
webpage?
yeah, best way to start is my website, which is joewilliams.co.uk. And you can find me on the usual social media places. The main thing I use is Facebook. On there, I'm Joe Williams, writer, poet, performer. So do look me up.
So before we go, 3 tips for budding writers.
Oh, 3 tips.
Or 100. It does. How many?
I've got 100. This is the sort of thing I should have prepared in advance, but I didn't know you were going to ask me. So yeah, number 1 is, as I already said, write whatever you want. Don't feel constricted by what you think you should be doing. Just do it. Just do something. Second thing is, get out and meet people, go to events. It depends where you live, whether you'll be able to find something locally. If you're in a big city, there's almost certainly loads of regular poetry events or poetry and prose events combined near where you are. There's always music open mic events that are happy to have a poet. Get out there, do your thing, listen to what other people are doing. I'm going to call that number 3, listen to what everyone else is doing. That means watching performances and reading books, absorb things in any way you can, and you might find that certain things work better for you than others. I personally like to experience live poetry, but I also read a lot of books, but I would prefer to go to a live poetry event as a kind of starting point.
Thank you. And I appreciate your time, Joe.
No problem at
Watch
all.
out for you. Thank you
Thanks
so
very
much
much
for your time.
Thank you.
Respect.
Cheers.
All right. Thank you.
Step forward.